service. As you can see, that's an increase of over 137,000 calls over the last 7 years. Next slide, please. Of those calls, 110,000 of those calls in 2013. As you can see, 63,000 of those were responding to burglar alarms, 38,000 of those were responding to accident calls, and 7,000 of those were responding to animal or dog calls. You go to the next slide. What this says, and you all have a copy of my PowerPoint, but what this basically says is that during the PERC report as well as the PFM report, it says that the Memphis Police Department responds to over 100,000 calls that are not what they consider to be police related. That needs police action. They're saying that they respond to a significant amount of burglary calls, significant amount of accidents, as well as animal control calls. Next slide, please. What we want to do here is show a comparison of Memphis versus the national average in decrease in burglaries. As you can see, here in 2010, the national average was a decrease of 4.1%. Here in Memphis, we had a decrease in burglaries of 19.6%. Next slide, please. We're proud to say that in 2013 that we were able to realize a 4.5% reduction in crime. What that basically means is that there were 2,313 less crime victims than we had in 2012. Since 2006, there have been 19,939 less crime victims in the city of Memphis. Next slide, please. We're here, by category, criminal homicides are down by 7.9%. There were 11 fewer criminal homicides in 2013 as compared to 2012. Forcible rapes are reduced by 16.9%. There were 71 fewer forcible rapes as compared to 2012. Robberies were, we had a decrease of 7.5%. There was 254 less robberies than we had in 2012. Next slide, please. Aggravated assaults, there was a 5.9% reduction in aggravated assaults. There were 300 less aggravated assaults in 2013 as compared to 2012. Burglaries, we had a reduction of 5.3%. There were 660 fewer burglaries as compared to 2012. Larceny thefts, we had a 2.9% reduction in larceny. There was a 762 fewer larceny as compared to 2012. Motor vehicle thefts, we had an 8.7% reduction in auto thefts, which means that there were 253 less auto thefts than in 2012. What we're basically saying here, I just want to show that we believe that the utilization of Blue Crush, our community outreach program, as well as the realignment of the precincts and moving investigators back to the precinct, have all working in conjunction with each other, helped us to realize these successful crime reductions. Next slide, please. This is what we proposed in the FY14 budget. There was a proposed $241 million budget, and the adopted budget was $234 million, which was a $23 million total savings for the FY14 operating budget. Next slide, please. We had a mandatory $23 million savings to the city. There was a $6.4 million in attrition savings for 100 positions, a $11.2 million attrition savings for 249 vacant positions, 226 of those were commissioned officers. There was also a $6.1 million in cuts proposed, which allowed for a 2.5% reduction. Next slide, please. In that 2.5% reduction, it was including $6.1 million. We had to eliminate one recruit class. We were scheduled to have a recruit class of 69 recruits. That represented about $2.9 million. We also eliminated a promotional processing for the rank of sergeant as well as the rank of lieutenant. There was a price tag of $2.5 million associated with that. We also reduced our overtime line by $689,000. So the total reduction of that is, as I stated, is a little bit more than $6.1 million. Next slide, please. There was a additional reduction. As you know, there was $500,000 allocated. It was to be reallocated from our budget to be used for the testing of sexual assault kids. Initially, we took that $500,000, $275,000 from M&S. I'm sorry, $275,000 from overtime as well as $225,000 from M&S. Next slide, please. The impact of us having to eliminate a police pursuit class. Of course, you have less police officers patrolling the streets. The reduction in arrests, reduction in traffic enforcement, less proactive policing, brute crush operations. As it stands right now, we have a significant portion of our overtime for brute crush operations. If we continue to decrease our staffing, a significant portion of that money will be to meet our minimum staffing level. Inability to backfill future promotional vacancies, as well as the impact of staffing levels to all of our specialized units. When I would say specialized units, I mean units such as TAC, organized crime, internal affairs, training academy, as well as our overtime costs will increase. Next slide, please. Impact of promotional testing for sergeant and lieutenant. It reduces the supervisor to officer ratio, impacts individual officer accountability, increased overtime to fill these vacancies, increased out of rank. We are understaffed at the rank of sergeant, and to do that we have to pull patrolmen from the street, which means that we have to pay them 5% out of rank pay. We're very, very close to being understaffed at the lieutenant rank, where we might have to take a similar strategy, which means that our overtime costs will go up significantly. And we feel that this is going to negatively impact our abilities to offer police services. As we continue to pull patrolmen off the streets, it's going to impact our abilities to have patrolmen patrolling. Next slide, please. Our overtime reduction. Initially, our overtime cut our overtime line was $689,000, but with the additional $250,000 that was allocated for the testing of rape kits, it took that up to $939,000. And again, this is going to impact us by less blue crush details, as well as negative impact us on being able to properly staff our precincts. Next slide, please. Our current staffing levels. With the authorized complement reduced by a greater than 250 positions, this was absorbed through attrition. The police has been forced to operate with a level of 2,678 funded positions, which includes an annual complement for commissioned officers 2291. So our actual commissioned officers complement is 2291. Next slide, please. This slide gives you a snapshot of our FTEs, our history of our FTEs, which also shows that we have a current operating capacity of 2,678. That includes our commissioned and civilian personnel. Next slide, please. These are some other factors that we feel is going to have an adverse impact on the FY14 budget. Our top hiring grant was ended in August the 31st of last year. It was a 3-year grant that covered the cost of 50 officers that became. Now we are financially responsible for those officers. The 4.6 salary increase was not considered in the proposed budget. Overtime and attrition vacancies were calculated based on a 2.3% increase for 6 of the 12 months rather than 4.6 increase for an entire 12 months. Our lawsuits are anticipated to remain unfunded core services. During the initial budget request, we were budgeted for 1.5 million, and we expect a cost of about 2.3 million right now. I believe my last slide, and what I want to show here, part of the graph did not take this PowerPoint for whatever reason, but I want to show a correlation of what happens when we are properly staffed at police. As you can see, back in 2002, we had less police officers. Our crime was up. In 2009, 2010, we increased our complement for police officers, and we saw a significant decrease in our crime. I think that was my last slide.
Thank you, Director Armstrong. Councilman Strickland.
Director, on page 10 of the presentation, y'all proposed 241 million. You got 234 million adopted, which is a $7 million difference. How do we get to $23 million in total savings?
There was a significant portion to attrition.
No, I meant, why did, it seems to me that you only needed to cut 7 million, but you cut 23. Does that make sense?
No, there was, during the budget presentation, during preparation, rather, I was asked, could I cut 2.5% of my budget without making layoffs? And of that 2.5%, that's when we backed out the promotions, that's when we got backed out a significant portion of overtime, as well as the food classes. So that's where you see the little bit over $7 million.
The difference, if I may, would be the attrition, including the attrition numbers. That does not reflect an actual reduction in the base budget. However, by not being able to fill the positions and hold those vacancies to balance out the budget, that would account for some portion of the difference between the roughly $7 million, I think, Councilman Strickland, and the $23 million.
Are you saying that, are you saying those cuts were made to get to the 241 proposed?
No, it actually would go from the budget as adopted. Again, going back to the final budget discussions, there were 249 positions vacant as of the time the budget was adopted. And basically, those were held pending the review of the budget. Not only the vacancies in police, but all the vacancies, and we've been going through a gradual process of authorizing filling them. Police's share of that accounts for roughly the $16 million difference to balance out the overall general.
So there were cuts in addition to the 7 million. That's what you're saying?
In essence, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Boyd, Ford, then Flynn.
Okay, thank you. Director, on your reduction of overtime, could you explain in some detail the main reason that how you accomplished that? The main reason you accomplished the reduction of that amount, $689.
One, a portion of it was to 2.5% reduction, as well as a significant portion of $220,000 went to the break in, testing and break in.
Thank you.
Councilman Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd be able to ask the same question for both. I apologize, but I do have my questions ready. Director Benson.
Yes.
Quick question. How much does the council have to firefighter class?
Class at 30 is roughly about $800,000.
All right. And going back to this right here.
Yes.
I'm back on this. Looking at the projections, and I know that you said it can fluctuate. Just looking at some of the numbers, it looks like if this is the norm, It'll probably be over about $900,000